The Isuzu D-Max has been updated with a new engine. It's a 2.2 litre four-cylinder that replaces the 1.9 litre. It's more powerful, it's torquier, it's more efficient, and it has a new transmission as well. I'm going to tell you all about it in this review, so stick around. I'm going to tell you some great alternatives too. Let's check it out, shall we? New D-Max time. Well, sort of new engine at least. This new 2.2 litre engine is not available in every single spec of the D-Max. In fact, it's quite limited in terms of what vehicles it's offered in the range. Firstly, the SX grade, which does have a number of different derivatives on offer. You can get it in the single cab chassis model, or as a dual cab chassis with a few different versions of that available, 4x2 and 4x4. And then there's also a pickup version in dual cab specification. You'll see the pricing for it on your screen now. And that does mean that it is maybe a little bit limited in terms of the options available to you. It's also a bit limited in terms of spec. You're getting steel wheels, halogen lights, and rubber floors on the inside with cloth seat trim and the small screen, and none of the smarts that you might be hoping for, like keyless entry and push button start. You don't get that. So you don't get that in the X-Rider version either, which is this one here. It's the more lifestyle focused vehicle in the range with the 2.2 litre. It was previously available with the 3 litre, and in this new derivative it is a bit cheaper, but it's still got all the same sort of specs. So you're getting the LED lights, you're getting alloy wheels, you're getting a sports bar and a soft tonneau cover at the back, and on the inside you're getting a different interior trim, but still with the small screen and still missing keyless entry and push button start. So if you're thinking that kind of money for this kind of truck is maybe a bit much, I tend to agree with you, and let's talk about some alternatives because there's some bloody good ones. So you want a dual cab ute and you want it to have a bit more fruit. Have a look at the LDV Terron 9. If you can deal with the fact that it is not a cab chassis available option, it's just a unibody pickup, it could be a very good choice for you. The price is competitive. You're getting heaps and heaps of grunt from its 2.5 litre turbo diesel engine, and you're also getting lots of refinement and comfort and plenty of great features for the money. 3.5 tonne towing capacity like this as well, so it could be a great choice for you if you are open to the idea of an LDV. Another option, if you want to stay a little bit more mainstream, is the Mitsubishi Triton. It does have a number of different derivatives available, and I like this about the Triton. All of them come with the same engine across the entire range. No power and torque difference from the base model single cab all the way to the top spec, and that might be good for those buying a base model, maybe less appealing for those buying a high spec, but it is a very appealing thing in a lot of ways, and I do like that democratic approach to offering the same powertrain across the lineup. And another option that does that is the Kia Tasman. Now, you might not love its looks, but you might love its interior. It is a really nice cabin in the Kia Tasman. There's a number of different derivatives available as well, from 4x2 dual cabs and single cabs all the way up to high-spec four-wheel drives at much higher pricing than this. But I think there's a sweet spot somewhere in the middle of that Tasman range, and, well, even if it doesn't appeal to your eyes, it might appeal to your wallet. What do you think about it? Have your say in the comments. Would you pick this or one of those? I'd love to know. You won't be able to pick any differences in terms of the exterior design for this updated version of the D-Max because, well, there haven't been any. There's no cosmetic changes at all, and in terms of the dimensions, nothing's changed there either. So I'll put some size dimensions on your screen now. It is reasonably small for one of the big pickups, and it's also got some pretty good off-road angles, which you'll see on your screen too. And ground clearance is especially good for the D-Max, 235 millimeters across the range with a weighting depth of 800 mils as well. So certainly up to the task when it comes to those things. Now, this one is the X-Rider, so let's have a look at what you're getting. Those alloy wheels, the bi-LED headlights, the side steps, the black handles, the black exterior packaging. Just ignore those mirrors. Those are an accessory, the Clearview extendable mirrors. You get this sports bar at the back as well, and you're getting the soft tonneau cover. And, well, at the rear, no difference besides that. And this one does have a tow bar fitted as an accessory. There's a number of different accessories available in this vehicle lineup. And let's have a look inside the tub, if we can get in there. One sec. So here we go. Let's have a look in the tub here. I'll put the dimensions on your screen now. It is class competitive, but it doesn't have a gap wide enough to allow you to fit a pallet in the back. There's no 12 volt or power outlet in the back either. You do get some tie down hooks, But even in this high grade X-Rider, you're not getting a tub liner. So that might be something you need to budget for, I would suggest. But at least you're getting this soft tonneau cover, which is a nice inclusion. And underneath the body of the vehicle, there's a full-size spare wheel. Just keep in mind though, it still doesn't have central locking for the tailgate. So that could be annoying. This is going to be a very brief look at the interior of this D-Max X-Rider because, well, it is pretty basic and I've done reviews of the D-Max in the past. If you want to check them out, you'll find links in the description. But let's have a look at this screen. The smaller of the options available in the D-Max range. You still get tuning and volume dials, which is great. There's a little USB port in there. USB-C it is as well. And you've got some buttons down below. You've got wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And there are a number of off-road angles and transfer screens that you can look at, but it doesn't get tire pressure monitoring, so you can't see that. There's heaps of other settings available to you as well if you want to jump into them. And look, I think this is a reasonably simple screen. It's got a drop down box as well for some quick menus. So yeah, I think you'll be fine with it if you don't want something too involved. Now down below there is manual climate control, or manual air conditioning I should say, with just dials, and you've also got a slider for your recirc or not, which is kind of old school. And speaking of old school, regular old dial for your low range transfer case adjustments. You've got a 12 volt down there too, no wireless phone charger, still frustratingly. And you've also got your rough terrain mode switch down there, your rear diff lock switch, your downhill descent control system, and your parking sensors if you want to turn them off when you're off-roading. Now, this is the X-Rider, but still it gets the plastic steering wheel, which is not the most lovely thing to hold on to, plastic gear knob as well, and plastic handle for the handbrake. So it's not necessarily very upmarket feeling, I've got to say, but at least you're getting the massive cup holders, or bottle holders I would suggest, in the middle there. There are pop-out cup holders on the sides and a double glove box as well, and a little storage box up here too. And so the storage stuff is pretty well covered. You've got this digital instrument display in front of the driver, which is the old school one, the smaller one, and you've got some controls on the steering wheel to use it if you want to, including that button right there, which will turn off your steering assistance if you don't want that on too. Yeah, look, simple is the overarching principle of this interior, and it does get the dark headliner, but still no vanity mirrors, and the visors don't stretch out either. You do get grab handles, and lots of them in fact. There's a sunglasses holder, which is a nice inclusion. The dark headliner I don't like personally, and no auto dimming rear vision mirror either. So it feels basic. And the cloth seat trim, it's good enough. Comfy seats, but honestly doesn't really feel like the kind of money that's being asked in terms of the interior compared to some of the Chinese rivals out there, that's for sure, and even some of the Koreans. But let's check out the back seat space and see what it's like. Righto, this seat is set for about my driving position. I'm 6 foot tall, my knees are just up against it, not too bad though. Good foot room, headroom is also very good, but I don't like this dark headliner, and there are no rear lights in this car. You do get the center light panel up there, but it's not great. You've got grab handles up here, little hooks for your coat. You've also got a little hook here for a shopping bag and map pockets on the seat backs, which is nice to see. There is a USB-C port in the back, which is a nice inclusion in this grade. You've also got directional air vents. There's a bit of a transmission tunnel intrusion there to play against. And you've got ISOFIX points in the window seats and top tethers behind the seat as well. Just be mindful, it's a center top tether arrangement. Unlike some of the other utes out there which have actual fixed tethers down behind the seat, this one, it might take a little bit of work to get it tensioned how you might feel comfortable for your kiddo. Now, so look, as I said, a bit basic, but surprisingly quite comfy in the back for a grown-up. This is the big news. Well, slightly smaller news than the rest of the D-Max, because it's the 2.2 litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel engine, single turbo, 120 kilowatts, 400 Newton meters. Now that is more than before in the 1.9, but it gets an 8-speed automatic transmission from Aisin, and it is available with 4x2 or 4x4, selectable four-wheel drive that is, with a low-range transfer case. And if you choose that one, you get a diff lock for the rear as well. Now, when it comes to your towing specs, you bet it can do the maximum towing capacity, 750 kilos unbraked and 3.5 ton brake towing capacity. And it is certainly up to the task in that regard, at least on paper. But if you want to see what it's actually like to tow with, I suggest you hit the bell and you'll be notified when I get a chance to do a towing review with the 2.2, because I'm really looking forward to it, because it could be very, very important in terms of your purchase decisions. Now, let's go drive it and I'll show you what this new engine's like. So what is this drive experience like in the new 2.2 litre D-Max? Mostly very positive, I have to say. This engine is pretty well up for it. It seems like it's got enough grunt. It's certainly not mind-blowingly fast, but it responds pretty quickly when you put your foot down. And the biggest thing about it, honestly, is the noise. Because you've got more gears to play with, it seems noisier more often because you're revving it more, if that makes sense. The gearing makes it, well, a noisier experience. Less, I guess, enjoyable in some ways, I would say, but you've got 7th and 8th gears as your overdrive gears, and you'll only really call on them when you're sort of above 70 k's an hour. One thing I really do like about the way that the stop-start system works in this vehicle, as opposed to others, is it works when you actually take your foot off the brake, not when you press the accelerator. It'll also work to reactivate the engine if you just put on some steering lock. So yeah, that might be something you want to keep in mind, or you might just be the sort of buyer who turns it off anyway and you won't see the benefits of the fuel consumption, which we'll talk about soon. But I do think that this powertrain is perfectly acceptable. The other thing about it is that this is the X-Rider one, so it gets the softer suspension setup. The SX models get the more hardcore setup in the cab chassis especially. So if you are after the more enjoyable drive experience, well, maybe the X-Rider will be the one to go for. But honestly, it's a pretty nice experience more generally. Just like the other versions of the D-Max, I think that the ride comfort is acceptable when it's unladen, as it is right now. Remember, this has got a pretty good payload capacity as well. I've put the numbers on your screen so you can have a reminder, but it is certainly not the answer to everyone's prayers when it comes to lovability, but it's definitely going to be perfectly fine for work purposes and dual purpose buyers as well, if you're buying one like this one. Steering is acceptably good as well. It's sort of light-ish feeling, but still direct enough. And it also does, well, the off-road stuff straight out of the box pretty bloody well, I have to say. So let's go hit some trails and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, we're off-road in the D-Max X-Rider, and I mean, I've also driven the MUX LST today, and there's a few things that are obviously a bit different. The fact that you don't have the surround view camera system on this grade does make a bit of a difference. It might make you a little bit less confident in terms of picking your line, and I mean, it's still going to be able to do lots of the stuff that you'd expect of a vehicle like this. One thing I'll also call out, because it doesn't have push button start, the key might dangle against your kneecap when you're off-roading because you're riding the brake a little bit more. But hey, that might just be me. Maybe I'm strange. But I also just want to call out this 2.2 litre engine and this 8-speed auto. Straight off the bat, they feel up to the task. Just like in the MUX, you do have a bit better urgency from a standstill because they've made a bit more torque available to you early on in the rev range. There is still a bit of lag to contend with when you take away from a standstill. And just like the MUX, it's got low range with only 6 gears available. Even though it's an 8-speed auto, the last 2 ratios are locked out when you're in low range, as we are right now. Now, we've been doing some rather treacherous stuff today, not like mind-blowingly hard, but still with some pretty impressive technique available because of the systems in this car. So there is a rough terrain mode system, which is basically a very effective off-road traction control system, and it does ensure that you've got better progress available to you when you think you've run out of traction, and it really does a fantastic job. There's no doubt about that. If you've driven a D-Max, you'll know what to expect. It's quite light in terms of the steering. The ride is surprisingly not too bad. It is firm feeling, and these tires, well, they seem okay, but obviously the easiest and cheapest upgrade if you are going to be going off-road a lot is a different set of rubber. So that might be an easy way to spend a little bit more to get a lot more out of your D-Max. But honestly, you're not really going to have any trouble with it. You've still got low range as I said, it's got the low range transfer case, proper low range gearing, and it's totally easy to manage this vehicle. Even amateurs will feel pretty comfortable because of the technology and also the hardware on board here. Now, being a ute with a pretty long wheelbase, you will have to be mindful of your breakover angle, as I called out earlier on. It does play its part when you are going over slower speed obstacles, and the side steps also play their part, so be mindful of that. And on the screen, you do have a little bit of information available to you. You can check out your angles and what's happening with the transfer case, but in none of the versions with the 2.2 litre engine on this D-Max range do you get a tyre pressure monitoring system. Could be an issue for off-roaders. You've got hill descent control. It is pretty effective. It's keeping us at 3 kilometers an hour in the slowest setting. Actually, we've dropped down to 1 kilometer an hour right now down this steep descent. Another great tool for those who aren't necessarily as confident with their off-roading. And if you do buy a 4x4 version of the D-Max, you get a rear differential lock. No version comes with the front diff lock that you might be hoping for. Unfortunately, there's just rear diff lock and this clever traction control system, which honestly is going to get you further than you're expecting anyway. It's an accomplished machine when it comes to the off-road thing, and fantastic straight off the showroom floor. Now, efficiency is the name of the game for this powertrain, so let's talk about it. The numbers are better than the old 1.9 litre in manual or auto spec. And firstly, I'll show you the 4x2 figures on your screen. That's the official combined cycle fuel consumption number, what you should be able to achieve across a mix of driving. And then the 4x4 models, a little bit different, but it is very, very strong in terms of the improvements compared to the previous models, and certainly better than the 3 litre, even though the 3 litre has seen some changes as well, with new start-stop technology offering up some consumption benefits there as well. So look, if you're wondering what I've seen across today's testing, which hasn't been my normal testing, it's been in Queensland doing a lot of off-roading as well, you'll see the number on screen. So that might be what you achieve if that's the sort of thing you do. And also keep in mind, fuel tank capacity is good for this ute range. Numbers on your screen there. And also, it does not have AdBlue, so you don't have to consider that in your running calculations. The Isuzu D-Max does have the 5-star ANCAP safety rating from a few years ago, and it carries on for this updated model with this new engine, and it's got heaps of standard safety spec and tech. There's autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection. You've got lane keeping assist. You've got blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert. You get a reversing camera as standard on all versions with the 2.2 litre. I'm not sure that that's good enough in this day and age, but you're also getting a speed sign recognition system, and you've got lane keeping assist, which is very easy to turn off too. And the airbag coverage is good. You've got dual front side, a front center airbag to prevent head clashes in a side impact. You've got driver's knee coverage and curtain coverage for all the window seats as well. Isuzu Australia offers a 6-year 150,000 kilometre warranty for its model range, and there is a 5-year 75,000k capped price servicing plan for all models, including the 2.2 litre, which has a cap price average on your screen now. That's not a bad price for maintenance for a vehicle like this, but it's the same as the 3 litre, so no savings there. When it comes to roadside, there's up to 7 years available. If I know Isuzu buyers, I think most people will still choose the 3 litre engine because, well, it's still the better option. But it's only available in the higher spec, more expensive models now, so it could be a decision maker in its own right. If you are after a more cost-effective option, well, this new 2.2 litre could be a fantastic choice, whether it's for fleet, whether it's for business, whether it's for your apprentice, whatever it may be. It could still be a very good option because it's very efficient and pretty good in terms of the drivability. So what would you do? Have you say in the comments section below? I'd love to hear from you, and thanks for watching, and thanks for subscribing. I'll see you when I see you.